All right, check it out, guys. In about an hour from now, I'm going to be doing a photo shoot. And then in about 3 hours from now, I'm going to be doing my sales training with my real estate clients and students. They're doing absolutely phenomenal. They made a lot of improvements. They're going to be really, really, really good once they keep using the techniques I'm showing them. But what I want to share with you guys today, I'm in my office. I'm relaxed. I got my hat on because I'm going to be changing outfits for my photo shoot. Is why questions are very powerful and important in the storytelling process. But it's more than just questions. It's how you ask the question and then the power that you ask it. So I'm going to share with you 4 or 5 tips that you should focus on whenever you're doing a sales presentation, whether it's face-to-face, doing a network marketing. For me, it's always on the phone, but the techniques work all the time. They just do. And if you apply them consistently, you're going to start seeing growth, not only in your sales, but more importantly, it's all about increasing your value. Because at the end of the day, whether you generated a sale at that moment or not, you have to make sure that when you end that phone call, all that message, whether it's a text message, email message, however you communicate, you have to make sure at the end of that communication, you have increased your value to the prospect. Because don't forget this, we're all prospects, we're all customers, we all buy and we all sell, right? So don't forget that. But here's one of the things you need to understand, and I have my notes here, is understand and anticipate a response, an objection, etc. What I mean by that, is every time you're on the phone, you got to expect in the beginning of the conversation, especially if there's a cold call, you got to expect there's going to be certain response, like I'm not interested, or I'm busy, I have a broker, I have a digital marketer, I have a real estate agent, or I don't deal with real estate agent. Whatever the cause may be, or whatever the case may be, you have to understand what they're going to say. You have to understand why their response is the way it is. And you have to understand whether it's an objection, it's a buying question, whatever it is. You have to be ready to deal with their response. And the more prepared you are in dealing with their response, you're going to be so much more armed to moving forward in the presentation. So just think about that. I know for me, whenever I get on the phone, I know the response I'm going to get 9 out of 10 times. I know the questions I'm going to be asked, whether they're legitimate questions or they're just questions to try to get me off the phone, or they're objections, or they're buying questions. I'm already prepared and understand that. So you got to understand and anticipate responses and objections. Does that make sense? The second thing you have to do is when you receive those responses or the objections or the questions, you have to have very powerful rebuttals. For me, a rebuttal is this. If someone's asking me a question has nothing to do with the process, has nothing to do with the value of the services or the product, that's an objection. That's a way for them to try to get me off the phone. So I have powerful rebuttals to diffuse that objection. If it's a legitimate question, then I answer with powerful answers as well, but it's more about moving the process forward and not trying to get me off the phone. So it's not what you say, it's also how you say it. It's very critical to storytelling, because at the end of the day, those who tell the most powerful and effective story is going to generate the sale. It's just that simple. It's not complicated. It's been my experience for 30 years. No matter what level of sales or business you're at, the process is the same. The mindset is the same. It's just zeros. That's all it is. It's just zeros. Does that make sense? So the third thing is, this is very important. Many people overlook this, and I teach my students this, that how you ask a question and how you address the questions and the objections is going to determine your value, believe it or not. How you answer it. Why? Because the prospect needs to understand and believe and trust that you are a professional, that you know what you're doing, that you know how to handle them, that you make it about them and not you. And by handling it that way and understanding the power of that, that's going to increase your value or it's going to decrease your value. You're either getting better or you're getting worse, right? So don't take it lightly how you address an objection or a question or anything or any response. Be ready, be prepared, and have conviction in your rebuttals. Because rebuttals are a very powerful tool. And for me, that's everything for me. That allows me to tell a more effective and powerful story because it transitions me into the rhythm and tempo of the story, which makes it more engaging, more exciting, more rewarding for the prospect to be involved in the story. Does that make sense? And then number 4 is always ask questions in a story format. You might have never thought about that. For me, everything's about rhythm and tempo. Let me give you an example. Those of you who go to movie theaters or you watch movies, I don't watch movies. I haven't watched movies in over 12 years. But selling and movies is the same thing. It keeps the rhythm and tempo. It keeps people engaged. It keeps people involved because at the end of the day, it's what's in it for them, right? Does that make sense? It's not what's in it for you. What's in it for you or for me is always increasing my value, providing solutions. But you have to ask questions in a story format. Why? Because at the end, that's what keeps people engaged. Because if you don't ask questions in a story format, then the transition to closing the deal is going to be more difficult, right? So everything's about a story. You may not want to believe that. You may want to think, well, people don't want to hear stories. I'll tell you right now, last week, I did a cold call for sale by owner client, right? And she told me in the beginning of the phone call, I don't want to hear sales pitch. 32 minutes later, I had an appointment with her the next day. 2 days, yesterday, she signed a contract with us. But she didn't want to hear a story. The point is, everyone, including myself, love and want to hear a good story. What people don't want to hear is bullshit. That's what they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear lies. Does that make sense? So, at the end of the day, I'm trying to do something here, okay? So, at the end of the day is you always have to ask questions in a story format. Here's the reason why. Number 5 is always use rebuttals in a story format. Always. You have to address the response. You have to address the question. You have to address the objection, but make it fluent where it's part of what you do. It transitions you into the flow of the story that leads to the close. Because at the end of the day, in the storytelling, that's where most of the deals are solidified. That's where most of the value is solidified. That's where you earn your pay. Because again, those who tell powerful, effective storytelling are usually going to get the sale. That's what it is. So keep this in mind, guys. Everything you do in selling, see, a lot of people like to use the word sales, which is an effect of a cause, is the result of an action. That action is selling. Most people that I speak to online, whether it's digital marketers or SEO people, they focus more on the graphics and all that things to do the sales for them or generate sales. They don't actually like to do the selling, even though they need to sell. Why? Because most people don't understand the art of storytelling. That's selling right there. So at the end of the day, if you're not generating sales, right, you don't have a business. You know what you have, right? You have a glorified hobby. I'm sure some of you have heard that many times, not only from me, but from other people. And that is the truth. So for me, my students and my clients, I always tell them, spend 70% of your time, selling. Whether it's cold calling, social media, it doesn't matter. I teach them that. 20%, spend your time on follow-up calls. And then spend 10%, and this is what I do, spend 10% on your content creation, postings, and communicating and things like that. Because at the end of the day, if you're not generating sales, you don't have a business. So focus on the selling. Understand the power of questions, the power of rebuttals, the power of storytelling. Because one thing I've learned a long time ago, no matter what skill I have, if I'm not getting better at my skill, I'm not improving my skill, and I'm not increasing my value with that skill, I'm not going to generate sales, which means I don't get paid. And I like getting paid, but I like earning my pay. Does that make sense? So just keep that in mind. I hope this has been helpful. Those of you who've been watching me live, I do appreciate that. Share your comments, share your thoughts. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions or you have an objection that you haven't been able to overcome as far as a rebuttal, please share that and I'll respond to you and help you have a rebuttal that's going to help you generate more sales. Anyway, talk to you later. Have a great day, and I wish everyone much success. Talk to you later. Bye.